Welcome back, everybody. It's clear that Canada's climate is changing, and due to our country's northern location, it's warming at more than twice the global rate. As a result, we're experiencing record high temperatures, increased rainfall, ice loss, raging wildfires, and severe droughts.
While this impacts many industries and sectors, one majorly affected area is agriculture. Our next guest is a farmer and the president of Farmers for Climate Solutions, here to shed light on what that impact looks like. Please welcome Brent Preston to the show.
Welcome, Brent.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. As we have heard, all of this unpredictable weather that we've been experiencing, it's not a blip. It seems like it is not going to slow down. And the government's already giving us tons of warnings. We have quite the season ahead just looking at wildfires alone, not all the other things. So last year, we'll remember wildfire season, 6,600 blazes burned across this country, and it burned up 15 million hectares of land, which is unbelievable. So what is this kind of devastation? And that's just one of the issues. There's floods, there's all kinds of things.
Sure.
What impact are these things having on your life and lifestyle?
Well, I think for farmers, it's become sort of a story of extremes, and it's different in different parts of the country. But I guess the best way is to give an example. Last year, I spent some time on a friend's farm in Saskatchewan. He had received a total of 2 inches of rain for the entire growing season. Oh, wow. And when I walked through his wheat field, it was just clouds of grasshoppers flying up, and they devastated his crops because grasshoppers thrive in hot, dry weather. And Environment Canada is predicting another bad year for grasshoppers on the prairies this year. But back home at my farm at the exactly same time in Ontario, we had one rainstorm where we received 3 inches of rainfall in less than 30 minutes. So we got more rainfall in half an hour than the farmer in Saskatchewan got in a whole season. So the impacts are different for different farmers, but it's extremes: extreme rainfall, extreme drought, extreme heat. That's the reality that we're dealing with.
Wow. So how are farmers having to adapt to their practices to deal with climate change?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. We have to change our practices. We have to change the way we farm. And the good news is that we're doing that. I get really excited, as I'm sure all of you do, about soil health. I mean, I know, I'm sure you talk about it all the time. But there's a new focus among a lot of Canadian farmers on building the health of their soil. And you know about the importance of the human microbiome. Well, the soil microbiome is essential to growing healthy plants. So by changing our practices to nurture that soil life, we can draw carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and store it in the ground, which is important from a climate change perspective. And that when we increase the carbon in our soils, we increase the soil's ability to hold and to absorb water in extreme rainfall events and to hold that water during periods of drought. So we do things like reducing the amount of tillage we do. We don't plow the land anymore in a lot of parts of Canada. We use specialized machinery so we can plant and harvest and do all things we need to do without disturbing the soil. And that means we are more resilient when we have extreme weather events.
That's incredible. Wow, that kind of blows my mind. There's so much talk of the impact that farming has on the environment. So what does that footprint look like, and how are you trying to be part of the solution? So
there's nothing that human beings do that has a bigger impact on our planet than agriculture. But we need to grow food. You know, the world population's approaching 9 billion. We need to feed people. So the trick is, how do we figure out ways to produce the food we need while reducing our environmental impact? You know, agriculture has huge impacts on global biodiversity, on habitat loss, on water quality. The thing I'm most interested in my work with Farmers for Climate Solutions is GHG emissions. Canadian agriculture produces about 10% of our total greenhouse gas emissions in the country. So we need to reduce those emissions, and we need to adapt to climate change. And, you know, an example on our farm, we're trying to find ways to reduce our fossil fuel use. So traditionally, we have raised animals and crops in different places, and we harvest crops and feed those crops to the animals, but that all requires the use of fossil fuels to run tractors and trucks and all those sorts of things. So on our farm, we started moving the animals to the feed. So if you come to our farm in the summertime, you'll see chicken tractors, great big mobile chicken coops. You can see these, where we move them every day. and the chickens feed on the grass and the bugs and everything else in the field. Zero fossil fuels in harvesting or moving things around.
Neat. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And the great thing is we end up with a product, pastured poultry, that is more valuable. We can sell it for more money, and it has much lower GHG emissions. So
And are they also fertilizing the soil as they go?
Absolutely. They're spreading that. We don't have to haul manure from the barn out to the field. They're fertilizing. We're increasing the soil health. We're feeding the soil microbiome. And then when we grow crops on those lands the next year, they're much healthier, more productive, and our farm ends up being more profitable.
That's a brilliant idea.
Everyone wins.
Yeah. All right,
absolutely.
so Brent, in recent years, consumers have seen a huge spike in the prices at the grocery stores. So how is climate change impacting the food supply?
In a lot of different ways. I mean, in Canada, the biggest spike we've seen is in the price of fresh fruits and vegetables. We import almost all of our fresh fruits and vegetables, and a lot of them are coming from places that are extremely climate insecure, like California. So I think one of the things we need to do is to relocalize our food system, is to bring some of that production back into Canada. There was a time when we produced almost all of our fruits and vegetables domestically, and there's no reason we can't do that again. We need to reduce the number of food miles that our food is traveling. And we know that in Canada we can produce it. A lot of the things we produce in Canada have some of the lowest GHG profiles of food produced anywhere in the world. Wow. So we're better off growing and consuming our own food in a lot of different ways.
This could be our next side hustle, ladies.
Yeah, I was looking to say that.
Yeah.
But is there anything we as consumers can do, like, to be better?
For sure, but like I said, buy local. If you can buy direct from a farmer, reduce that supply chain and make localize your food supply as much as possible. But you also have to give yourselves a break. Like, we're not going to solve climate change by buying a bag of Ontario apples instead of a bunch of bananas. It's important, it's good to do, but this problem is too big. The Canadian agricultural system is not going to survive runaway climate change. And we are on track right now for runaway climate change. Just a couple of days ago, the US government released new stats that last year we added more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere globally than almost any other year in history. So we need to vote with our dollars at the grocery store, but we need to vote with our votes at the ballot box and elect governments that are going to be serious about reducing emissions as quickly as possible, because that's the only thing in the long term that is going to ensure a viable Canadian ag system.
Yeah. So, on that note, I said it earlier in the show that the government has to be kind of putting these things in place. What can the government do?
The government has been moving in the right direction. When we formed Farmers for Climate Solutions 4 years ago, there was almost no attention to climate and agriculture. Now the federal government has invested more than $1 billion in helping farmers move to climate-friendly practices over the past 4 years. We need to do more of that. There's lots that farmers and governments still need to do, but we've started moving in the right direction.
Right.
Brent, thank you so much for being here. This was really interesting. Wow. Who knew? Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.